Teachers of Reddit, what differences do you see in students who have young parents versus students who have older parents? None. Parent involvement is the big factor. If I email a parent, will they answer? Will they uphold consequences at home for behavior at school? Will they work with me to find solutions that work for their child? Those are where I see the differences. And in my experience, older parents are just as likely as younger parents to do those things. I did not expect for this comment to garner this much attention at all, but thank you for all your comments and questions. Edit and Silver. I wrote this purely speaking from my own experience as a teacher. I want to fully acknowledge that there are teachers out there, and you as a parent might be doing all the right things and still have a bad experience. That's kind of my point though. Your impact as a parent can be so much more lasting than a crap teacher. Do your best to collaborate with the teacher and the administration. Let your kid know that you see them working hard and that you're proud of them. Set realistic goals for your kids and reward them for meeting them to help them feel successful. I'm a parent too, and from experiencing both sides of this equation, I feel like the best I can do for my daughter is to give her the tools to be independent, confident, and navigate all the weirdness of life, and to be present and engaged enough that she knows I'll always have her back if she needs me. If your kids feel seen, cared for, and challenged, you're doing what you're supposed to do. As a teacher, agree, it's not the age, it's the involvement. I would say there is more correlation between which child is in my class. Oldest, only, middle, youngest. I teach kindergarten. Parents that are going through their first kid entering my class, kindergarten, have no idea what to expect and are pretty neurotic about very trivial and age-appropriate things. Parents who have a second child going through the school system are always, "This isn't what it was like with my firstborn." And then there are the youngest ones. Parents are like, "Yeah, I figured. No, I'll just send money for you to take care of anything your class needs. Do I need to worry about..." Good, I won't. Parents of only children are the wild cards. There's a joke here. If the firstborn eats dirt, the parents drive straight to the ER. If the secondborn eats dirt, they call the GP. If the thirdborn eats dirt, they ask, "So do you need dinner?" Well, if I'm being honest, there's not a lot of differences. Each person is different, so I can't just categorize them. I have one student who was moved to an advanced class by his older mother. Worst decision ever made by that mom, but she wanted to brag that her kid was taking advanced classes. Unfortunately, she doesn't really care that her son is struggling. It's really all about parent involvement. I've had a lot of moms talk to me about their kids' grades and how they're doing, but I've also had a lot of moms like the one I mentioned above. Any way to move the kid back down without, flat out failing him out of the class? Or is he now forced to sink, fail, or swim, keep struggling? I'm adjusting the lesson to his level, but TBH, he's failing. It's kind of like putting a first grader in a fifth grader's class. It's hard to teach a kid if they can't even read the words you're teaching them. I have a kid in my class who has siblings that are all over 30. He's 10. I can see a big difference there. They treat him like doting grandparents, not parents. They are great and I love him, but it's much different than the others. Grandparents' Day is out of the question. They take him out of school very often for fun trips. They let him set his own bedtime and let him decide if an assignment is worth doing or not. They're lucky he's so smart and sweet, because that could be a disaster. Oh, it will be a disaster. That kid will never learn discipline and it will hurt him later on. As an older parent, it's strange when your kids' teachers are so young. My son's first grade teacher is almost 20 years younger than me. I guess you spend so long looking at teachers as older authority figures. It's weird for teachers too. At 41, I'm finally now the same age as most of my students' parents. I feel like they take me more seriously now. The age of the parent doesn't make a difference. It's the involvement of the parent that does. There's a post floating around about parents doing a reaction video over their kid's report card. More likely the parents in their late 20s or early 30s are posting, and versus the older ones. There isn't a difference. I've seen great parents who are young and terrible older parents. As noted before, parent involvement and engagement makes all the difference. If parents read with their children, encourage them, and actually have conversations with them, you notice a wider vocabulary, great literacy skills, and more confidence. The difference after summer holidays is massive. Children who aren't read to will regress massively and spend a term getting them back to where they were before summer. I find that children whose parents don't listen to them are the ones who call out all the time and do anything for attention. Obviously, there are exceptions, such as medical conditions. That being said, some parents are involved, but in an unhealthy way. They question why their child isn't in the highest group, why have they moved up a level, and constantly talk about how their child is one of the best in the class. Sometimes, unfortunately, the child isn't quite living up to high expectations, and the anxiety this causes the children is crazy. I've seen children cry getting spelling wrong because their parents will flip out. I've also seen a parent make their child learn 2 groups worth of spelling because he would fall behind the higher group. It doesn't matter if the parents are young or old, have 1 child or 8. Healthy engagement is key. I love parents who genuinely care, want to help their children, and listen to their children's interests. Part of my training to become a teacher was we did an after-school tutoring program for reading. The professor who ran it told the story of this couple who brought their daughter in because she was behind, according to them. The university student did all the tests and found her to be completely on level in every measurable way. Long story short, the professor ended up having to ban the parents after spending a lot of time trying to get them to understand that on level is good and that their child's brain was developing on time and just wasn't ready for more advanced things yet and not succeeding. Sometimes on level is a warning sign. My pediatrician acted like I was an idiot for being concerned about issues in my then 1-year-old son's speech. He was at the appropriate milestones, but something was off to me. The doc basically said I had unreasonable expectations and brushed me off repeatedly. I got a second opinion. My kid's ears were full of fluid, and he couldn't hear jack until it was drained. If I just sat around and waited like I was told, he'd have lost a lot more of his hearing than he did, and less of it would have been recoverable. Difference between a parent who had a kid at 20 versus 35? Not a ton, except resources. The child of an older parent is more likely to be in more outside activities and have more money. Disclaimer to erase parents who drink a lot or do drugs from these statistics. Difference between a parent who had a kid at 16 versus 20? Huge. Honestly, except one. All the children of teen parents I've taught have significant behavior problems. As a parent who had a kid at 21, I'm glad to hear that kiddo isn't going to be set back. I taught for several years and many of my high school students had parents in their 30s, and you could pretty much guess which one's based on their behavior. It was sad really because often the 30-year-old mom was getting her things together and beginning to thrive, as you do in your late 20s, but when she was 17 or 18 during the kid's formative years, she didn't have herself together, and that hindered her ability to get a kid set up for success in the world. This isn't always the case, of course, but it was pretty frequent where I was teaching. I think this also depends on how emotionally developed the parents are as well. My mother had me young and had some very real issues of her own. As a result, she was a very inconsistent parent that bullied me. I didn't feel like she cared about my school, and I didn't feel like I could go to her with something if I was struggling. I'm grown now, and she has a child much younger than me. She's wonderful with him, and I see a huge difference in the way she treats him as she has grown from the person who raised me. She's the same person, but I think she's past a lot of the issues she had when I was a kid. Older parents have children with more traditional names. Well, excuse me. Does not naming my child after an air freshener make me look old? In my experience, age hasn't made a change in student behavior. More so, the personality and parenting style of the parents make a difference. Are they authoritarian, authoritative, or permissive parents? That will make a much bigger difference. Kids with authoritarian parents seem to have drastically less confidence and tend to have limited social skills. Kids with parents who are permissive also stand out because they often are the kids with little self-control and parent involvement. The parents who are involved, and you can tell really care, tend to be easier to work with, and you can see it in their children. Not a teacher, I'm a school psychologist. I have had multiple young parents cry in meetings. They often share that they feel that the students' problems are because mom and dad were young parents. I usually stop what we're doing and have a pep talk. Lots of kids have learning disabilities. It's not because you were 19 when you had them. I feel so bad for these parents and just trying to tell them over and over that they are doing a great job. I've been the good and bad in both. But sometimes, the young parents aren't financially stable enough to raise kids. Also, they sometimes both work or have 2 jobs, so they aren't spending enough time with their kids, especially academically. I found that some of the older parents put a lot of thought into having the child. It wasn't on a whim. Therefore, they tend to have the money, time, and also the desire to raise the child right, especially giving more time academically. But, on the minus side, I've seen older parents just not have the energy or patience to be around young children. I know a set of parents who are 52, her, and 65, him, with 3 very rambunctious boys between the ages of like 10 and 13. They are really stressed all the time. At their age, their kids should be long out of the house. But nope, they have many years left. That being said, I know of an older couple who had an accident baby recently, so it was on a whim rather than planned. I would imagine this isn't uncommon since a lot of people think women stop being able to produce much earlier, like 30s, and they actually can. Try age 50. Thankfully for the kid, they are extremely wealthy and have time and are happy.